With the success of Amazon Prime's Fallout show, HBO's Last of Us, and Netflix's Arcane Castlevania, fantastic video game adaptations are at an all-time high. Yet only a handful of years ago, the words video game adaptation would send chills down the spines of every video game fan. This shift in quality and reception marks a significant turning point in how these adaptations are produced and perceived, demonstrating that with the right creative vision and respect to the source material, video games can successfully transition to compelling and critically acclaimed series. But before this television boom, these adaptations were typically relegated to the film medium, and they were, more often than not, cheaply made, had zero connection to the source material, and in some cases were extremely tax exploitative. During the peak of this low point in adaptations, one such property almost made it to the silver screen, and that property was Fallout.
Hey everybody, did the news get around about a guy named Butcher Pete?
Founded in 1983, Interplay Entertainment was a notable name in the video game industry, and would become particularly renowned for its revolutionary role-playing games. Interplay began its journey with a strong focus on developing innovative and engaging games, quickly establishing itself as a key player in the market. In its early years, Interplay developed and published a variety of titles across different games, with its initial success including games such as 1985's The Bard's Tale and 1988's Wasteland. Interplay's knack for creating immersive worlds and complex narratives garnered a loyal fan base and critical acclaim, and their success kept growing as the 90s marked a golden era for Interplay, with the release of several extremely iconic titles such as Baldur's Gate and Fallout. But Fallout in particular was truly groundbreaking. This title blended retro-futuristic aesthetics with deep, branching storylines and open-world exploration. The early development of Fallout is a fascinating tale of ambition, innovation, and perseverance, and it's one such tale I've covered twice already, so go check out those videos if you're interested in a more detailed account of the development of the Fallout IP. Nonetheless, the long short of it is that Fallout was a smash hit that garnered critical acclaim. Reviewers praised its rich storytelling, complex characters, and freedom it gave players to shape their own narratives. The game's dark humor, atmospheric setting, and moral complexity set it apart from many other RPGs of the time. Although it wasn't an immediate commercial success, Fallout quickly developed a dedicated fan base and became a cult classic, exemplifying Interplay's ability to innovate and set new standards in the RPG genre. Yet Interplay wasn't content with what they had. Sure, they had mass success with many games, but they wanted more. They wanted to branch out and enter new mediums to reach a broader audience. And no medium was better at achieving that goal than film. In 1998, Interplay Entertainment founded a film division creatively titled Interplay Films. The primary goal of Interplay Films was to leverage the rich storytelling and iconic characters found within Interplay's video game catalog in order to create compelling narratives for film and television audiences. By tapping into established IPs like Baldur's Gate, Descent, and Redneck Rampage, if you can believe it, Interplay Films aimed to appeal to both existing fans of the games and new audiences interested in immersive storytelling. Knowing that one of their top and newest IPs was the Fallout series, shortly after the creation of Interplay Films, a Fallout movie was announced. Based on the original Fallout, as at the time of development in 1998, Fallout 2 had yet to be released. The Fallout movie began production with Mortal Kombat Annihilation screenwriter Brent Friedman attached to write a film treatment, and with Dark Horse Entertainment set to produce it. Production began slowly and faced numerous challenges. Despite the initial excitement, the project encountered several hurdles, including creative differences, budget constraints, and difficulties in adapting the complex narrative of the game into a screenplay that would appeal to both fans and general audiences. These challenges led to delays and eventually caused the project to stall. But this wasn't a Fallout exclusive issue either. Everything under Interplay Films was facing setbacks, as the studio heads at Interplay quickly realized they got in way over their heads. In the end, Interplay Films ultimately failed to materialize any significant production. Interplay as a whole eventually shifted its focus back to its core business of video game development and publishing, leaving its film division largely inactive. When the 2000s rolled around, even more challenges struck Interplay. A combination of mismanagement issues and massive financial difficulties almost led the company to file for bankruptcy, leading to the sale of key assets and franchises in order to save what little they had left. The biggest outcome of this financial crisis is that in 2004, 2004, Interplay would sell the Fallout IP to Bethesda Softworks, who would continue to expand the franchise in different ways, from Interplay finding mass success with their titles. Despite these setbacks, Interplay continued to release games sporadically and attempted to revive some of its classic titles. But in the end, it wasn't enough. While Interplay never officially went out of business, managing to stay afloat and avoiding bankruptcy by the skin of their teeth, the company became a shell of what it once was. With Interplay Films essentially dissolved, Interplay Entertainment itself broken beyond repair, and the company no longer possessing the Fallout IP, one would think the story would end then and there. Bethesda now owned the property. Fallout 3 had released to great success, and everyone kind of forgot about the Fallout movie. Except for one man. In 2011, the writer of the Fallout film himself, Brent Friedman, leaked the film treatment online. For those of you who don't know, a film treatment is a detailed summary of a film's story, used as a step between the initial idea and the first draft of a screenplay. It outlines the plot, characters, and key scenes without the full dialogue and detailed descriptions found in a script. The treatment that leaked was the second revision of the Fallout movie. However, this isn't the definitive version of the film because, as you'll soon see, most of the character names are placeholders. Apparently, there's a third version of the treatment with some additions and refinements, but at the time of writing this, it has yet to leak. Overall, this treatment is still an overview of what the main story would be, as a full script for the movie was never actually written. So, without further ado, this is the 1998 film treatment for the Fallout film. We begin the story with the main character, a 20-something handsome man just referred to as Hero, as he waits for a train in LA with his friend. Once it arrives, we quickly learn everything we previously saw of LA was false, and a projection as the hero and everyone else he's with are actually in a vault. The hero gets restless when the projections start to break down, revealing nothing more than just a concrete wall. He then causes quite a stir, protesting aloud to other commuters that he's tired of living his whole life manufactured and that there must be something better. Elsewhere, Vault police see the hero causing a public disturbance and attempt to apprehend the hero as he gets off the train. He runs only to be tackled by a female officer. After letting him go, the hero goes to work as the assistant Vault supervisor, working on supply inventory and inspecting the Garden of Eden creation kit, or the GECK. As part of his daily ritual, he watches an old promo tape which explains how the GECK is a miraculous one-shot terraforming device to be used by the Vault dwellers upon their eventual emergence onto the surface. As he continues along with his tasks, he discovers an anomaly in the Vault's water supply. Quickly bringing this to the Vault supervisor, his father, he tells him that the water chip isn't really an issue. He also tells his son that he's seen the tape of the train incident and that he needs to stop disturbing the peace. It's also hinted at that he's done this a number of times before. We learn here that the newer generation born into the Vaults want to leave, while the older generations think it's all death and horror up there. The hero, after arguing with his father, convinces him to set up a meeting with the elders so he can make his case. The hero gets his wish, and later there's a private meeting of the elders. This is a group of 7 first-gen Vault dwellers, as they call them, including the hero's father. They're all from pre-Vault days, before World War III. Which was a little over 50 years ago. The hero presents to the elders the issue of the water purifier chip being broken and how in 1 week, Vault 13 will be out of drinking water. The head elder, aka the overseer, decides this issue must be kept from the public as they can't afford to instill panic. Because the hero is the highest ranking member of 3rd gen Vault dwellers, he is chosen to lead a surface recon team to search for a new water chip. The Overseer then assembles a scout team for the trek. Again, none of these characters have names, only descriptions. First, we have a technician, who is also the hero's friend we saw with him on the train. Next, we have the no-nonsense female officer who tackled him earlier. And finally, we have a cocky scholar. As they're preparing to leave, we learn that no one has left the vault since the bombs dropped in 2003. However, their initial probes show that radiation is minimal, with small signs of life. Apparently, after World War III's nuclear war went hot, all communications with the 12 other vaults in Southern California were lost. How much of the world has rebuilt itself, if any, is completely unknown. Since all the SoCal vaults are identical in design, Vault 8 is their primary target since it's only a 2-day hike away. Packing his belongings for the trip, the hero finds his marriage kit, which is given out to dwellers as marriages are prearranged based on genetic potential and the needs of the vault. The hero wants to tell his fiancée about what he's going to do, but his father says no. But the hero doesn't listen and sneaks over to her anyway to give her a secret farewell. Based on their interaction, it's clear that they don't actually love each other, but he tells her the truth, as well as to start working on being assigned another husband, as he might not make it back. The next morning, the group is outfitted with a 1-week survival kit, weapons, and cash to buy a replacement chip in case they find a Radio Shack. Yes, that's actually what's written in the treatment. They all gear up and give their goodbyes. As they are leaving, it's treated like the moon landing, with a live feed straight to the elders from a camera on the technician. And with that, they exit the vault. Stepping out into the world, it's exactly as we would expect. A vast, arid wasteland of rubble in what once was Los Angeles. Beginning their journey, the technician complains about his pack, how hot it is, and how they'll never make it to Vault 8. The technician then spots a payphone and rushes over to it, pulling out a phone book, thinking he can just order a new water chip over the phone. Once he reaches the phone, he gets a bullet through the brain, cutting off the live feed to the elders. Out from the rubble, scavengers attack the Vault Dwellers, mentioning that, quote, "stupid Vault Dwellers fall for that trap every time." A vicious gun battle then ensues. With the Vault Dwellers still being new to the whole firearm thing, they lack sufficient training to fight back adequately. They instead run and escape the scavengers, continuing their journey to Vault 8. After a while, the searing heat is cooking them inside their vault suits, and their water supply has nearly evaporated. Before they left, the elders warned them not to take off their suits and how the radiation could affect their future children when they return. But the hero can't take it anymore and takes off his vault suit, followed by the others. 2 days later, the group finally arrive at Vault 8, only to discover it was destroyed. There are signs of a fearsome battle at the vault's entrance. Amongst the human skeletons that line the floor, there are terrifying skeletons belonging to some bipedal species roughly 9 feet tall. Entering what's left of the vault security offices, the female officer finds a videotape of the massacre by mutants that were seemingly impervious to bullets. The hero says they still need to find the water chip, and even if those things are still in the vault, he must retrieve it. The hero volunteers to explore the vault alone as his companions are too afraid to join him. Descending 3 levels on a rope, the hero arrives at the water purifier, only to find the whole mechanism decayed, with the chip being corroded. Behind him, the rope falls and he realizes he set off an alarm. Escaping the vault, he is immediately captured by, and I'm quoting directly here, a Mad Max character. Max, as the treatment calls him from here on out, has already caught and bound the others. He is impressed with the hero's survival skills, but he says he'll still need to kill him for trespassing. But Max then notices the insignia on the hero's trusty Vault 13 canteen. Max asks what they're doing there, and the hero explains the whole water chip issue. Max then offers to get them a new chip in exchange for their Gek. Much to the others' dismay, the hero agrees. Max agrees to take them to the Hub, a trading post about a day's ride away, to barter for a new water chip. Traveling through the desert in Max's customized all-terrain vehicle, they pass a village where a 2-headed boy waves to them, with Max commenting, "Fallout freaks." While en route to the Hub, Max and the female officer begin to develop some kind of chemistry while the hostilities continue between Max and the scholar, who still thinks he knows all about the surface despite Max constantly telling him he's wrong. Meanwhile, the hero starts making a personal Pip-Boy chronicle of this strange surface world to share with Vault 13 upon his return. Back in Vault 13, the hero's fiancée is confronted over some sickness the hero might have given her, as the reason for the 4 scouts' disappearance has been chalked up to some virus and they are currently under quarantine. After making sure she's not quote-unquote sick, she is given the hero's old job in operations. Before this, however, she tells her friend the truth about their disappearances, and the gossip spreads through the vault like wildfire, causing social unrest in Vault 13. Back to the scouts, Max drives his all-terrain vehicle to the top of the Hollywood Hills. Looking down on the LA basin, the Vault Dwellers are stunned at the sight of LA, as it's become a massive, mutated jungle. Massive tangles of mutated flora and fauna spread from the foothills all the way to the ocean. Poking up through the canopy are the remains of the scattered LA skyline. According to Max, this jungle was created with multiple Geks used too early when the soil was still irradiated. Arriving at the blasted-out remains of the Beverly Center, now known as the Hub, Max leaves his all-terrain vehicle with a valet, and the group enters the Hub, checking their weapons at the door. It's described as a Persian bazaar where traders sell tools, supplies, and human slaves. Max warns the group that this is a very dangerous place and to follow his lead. However, when the residents see that they're all from Vault 13, they attempt to sell them all sorts of scams, as Vault 13 is the last of the SoCal vaults to open. The hero spots the scavengers who murdered the technician as they're selling his personal belongings and organs. This causes the hero to snap, and with the scholar's help, they attack the scavengers, resulting in a massive brawl. Max and the female officer join in, with her demonstrating amazing fighting skills and swiftly dispatching the scavengers, resulting in the group being arrested. They are then brought before the mayor of the Hub, Decker. His office is the last standing movie theater where he watches Blade Runner on loop. Decker says he'll give them a water chip in exchange for two of their lives, one of which must be the female officer. The hero objects, but Max says that they'll have to think about it. They are then made guests of Decker for the night to talk business in the morning. In their private quarters, the hero wants Max to take them to another trading hub, but according to Max, there isn't one. Max suggests that the two guys draw straws in the morning to see who gives themselves up for the good of the vault. The group is then granted entrance into Decker's private club, where Max buys them drinks and tells them all to loosen up. The scholar goes off with a prostitute, while the hero is tempted by a semi-mutated woman trying to get their hands on his, quote, pristine bodily fluids, but the hero refuses and continues his Pip-Boy chronicle, contemplating their present predicament. An ancient historian then approaches the hero, wanting to know all of the details of Vault 13. As it turns out, this historian is writing the definitive book on World War III, and Vault 13 is the final chapter. The hero learns that each vault was populated by upper middle-class families, buying the equivalent of a timeshare in the future. The hero asks the historian how the war started, and is shocked to learn that it wasn't started by China, North Korea, or India. The first nuclear bomb was actually launched by the creator of the vaults, a zealous businessman who wanted to fulfill his own prophecy of world annihilation. The first bomb triggered a panic chain reaction among the other countries, thus leading to a 4-hour-long World War III. In a private room, the female officer and Max get quite close. She tells him that she's never met a man like him before and doesn't want to die a virgin. During their foreplay, Max, for whatever reason, decides to tell her his backstory. As a young boy, he left Vault 8 with his father and the other survivors of the mutant attack. The survivors took their Gek to start a new life, but didn't make it very far before his father was killed by scavengers. Max was sold as a slaver to Decker and helped him build the hub. Max escaped when he was a teenager and returned to live alone in Vault 8, but deep down, he's always wanted to live out his father's dream and use the Gek to save the world. During the night, mutants raid the hub and break up the sexy times before Max and the female officer can get anywhere. All exits are then sealed off, and word spreads that they are looking for the, quote, pristine humans. Max urges the hero and the female officer to flee as the mutants can't be stopped by bullets, but the hero doesn't want to leave the scholar behind. Moments later, the scholar finds them and says he found a way out of the hub. Max is skeptical, but they follow him right into an ambush, where Decker is waiting with a gang of mutants. It turns out that the scholar has sold out the hero and the female officer, offering them both to Decker in exchange for the water chip. It's also made clear that Decker is in league with mutants who are the real ones with an interest in the hero and female officer. Max pulls out a secretly stashed gun and points it at the female officer's head. Max, now having what the mutants want, offers his friends to the mutants in exchange for a Gek. Decker wants to be cut in on this deal, but Max kills him instead. The mutants say for a Gek they want the location of Vault 13, and Max agrees only when he has the Gek and a safe passage home. The hero, the female officer, and the scholar are taken away by the mutants who inhabit the vast underground parking lots beneath the hub. They are all placed into a holding cell. When the mutants come, the scholar volunteers to go first, where he quickly surrenders Vault 13's location. The mutant leader, known as the Master, then prepares the scholar for a dip into a vat of forced evolutionary virus. The Master then tells the group that he could not afford to buy his way into the vault, so he created the FEV to adapt survivors, like himself, to hostile radiation conditions. The formula worked. However, the mutants become sterile as a side effect, and they need humans to sustain their numbers. This is why the Master turned LA into a jungle with a stolen Gek, turning LA into a cattle field for humans. The Vault Dwellers of Vault 13 represent the Master's last chance at creating a pure bloodline, or a mutated Adam and Eve for the new world. Elsewhere, Max is led to a warehouse filled with everything they've pillaged from the vaults over the years. Max is given a Gek, but it's defective, so he kills the mutants and has access to their vast storehouse of weapons. While the hero and female officer are led to the FEV dipping vats, Max uses a turbo plasma rifle to infiltrate the heavily guarded vat room, rescuing the hero and female officer. Max gives them a water chip and they destroy the vats, but not before the scholar is dipped in and turned into a mutant. Max blasts his way out of the underground labyrinth using explosives to seal off the tunnels behind them. Retrieving his all-terrain vehicle, they race out of the jungle as mutants and vehicles follow in hot pursuit. A high-speed car chase ensues, but for some reason the mutants give up chase at the edge of the LA basin. Making it back to Vault 13, the hero and female officer think they're the saviors of the vault, but when communication is initiated with the interior, the overseer rejects their re-entry. He tells them that they have all the water chips they need, and that discontent is contagious and the worst disease known to Vault Dwellers. Trapped outside of Vault 13, the Scholar mutant has led the Master and his army right to Vault 13. While fighting off the mutant forces outside the vault, the hero's fiancé starts to open the vault only to have the Overseer kill her. The hero's father then finishes what the hero's fiance started and lets the trio inside the vault, sealing it behind them. He then challenges the Overseer's authority and tells the elders to arm the populace, which they do. The mutants eventually break in and the battle for Vault 13 begins. Most of the Vault Dwellers die, including the hero's father. During the battle, the Overseer is confronted and killed by the Master, who recognizes the Overseer as the creator of the vaults and the one who started World War III 50 years ago. As the battle winds down, the hero fights the Scholar Mutant, leading him to a trap where he crushes him beneath a subway car. Meanwhile, Max and the female officer team up to defeat the Master. When the battle is over, only a handful of Vault Dwellers survive. The hero honors his deal with Max and offers him the Gek. Max instead offers to let what's left of Vault 13 join him, but the hero doesn't think the survivors are ready for the world above just yet. The female officer is torn over staying or going with Max, but she decides to stay with her people. As Max leaves the vault with his Gek, the Master isn't quite dead yet and injects him with the last strain of FEV. The hero intervenes and finally kills the Master, but Max doesn't have long. Max wants the hero to kill him, and after everyone is out of the vault, the hero kills Max. Outside of Vault 13's entrance, the female officer waits with the 50 other surviving Vault Dwellers. Joining everyone with the Gek in tow, the hero leads the group to find a new home. In the final montage, we see that the Vault Dwellers have settled in a peaceful arroyo, where the hero initiates the Gek, turning this portion of Earth into a lush paradise. Life begins anew, and the final image has the hero and the female officer together with their children fishing in a stream. The end. In all honesty, this treatment is not that bad. Sure, there are many things excluded from the treatment that many Fallout fans love, like the Brotherhood of Steel, Deathclaws, ghouls, etc., and the inclusion of a strange new lore tidbit like the Great War being called World War III, the bombs falling in 2003, some people knowing that Vault Tech dropped the bombs, and the creator of the vaults and the one who actually started the Great War being the Vault 13 Overseer. But you have to remember, this was written before Fallout 2 was even out, so franchise staples like the NCR, Power Armor, Vault Experiments, etc. were not established here because the writer didn't know of their importance. All in all, despite those, shall we say, unique inclusions to the lore, the story presented here is actually okay. As I said before, this is only the second draft, and I imagine the third draft would have ironed out some of those plot issues, like the hero and female officer randomly getting together at the end, Mr. Exposition showing up at a brothel just to lore dump on the main character, Max's death kind of contradicting what the hero said, as he said, "I'm not gonna leave with you," but then when he dies, he's like, "Okay, let's just leave." It kind of doesn't make sense. There's also an imbalance of action and reflection, and just the overall pacing is kind of off. Other than that, I think this is honestly a pretty decent story, and some of the new lore bits the story added were quite interesting, like the projections inside the vault to simulate the outside world, a Gek being used too early, turning LA into a mutated jungle, and the almost aliens vibe I got from the hero exploring the depths of Vault 8. In all honesty, this story could work if the setting was changed. If it wasn't Vault 13, but instead a vault we haven't visited before, and the premise of the story was a vault that was trying to create an extremely obedient society that exiles the dissenters under false pretenses, it could genuinely be a really cool story. It just needs a little more ironing out, but the structure of a potentially really interesting story is there. But what's even more interesting than this whole script treatment, after reading this, it's clear where some of the inspirations for the Fallout show came from, such as the projections I just mentioned, a selective breeding society within the vault, extremely naive vault dwellers, and the Overseer having some direct ties to Vault Tech. In the end, while I'm glad we got the Fallout show instead of this, in another timeline, I could see this movie being a cult classic.